All right, today we are going to read the story, What's an Orchestra? And for this story, Charlie, we are going to have a sheet that goes along with it that you can answer questions afterwards. You may also choose to answer them during the story. This is perfectly fine. So, let's get started. So the story itself says, an orchestra is a large group of musicians that play together. There are many different instruments. There's brass, woodwinds, strings, and percussion, and these are the four groups or sections in an orchestra. The violin, viola, cello, and bass, as in bass if you say it of maybe a vase, they all look alike. The violin is the smallest, the viola is a little bigger. The larger cello and even larger bass rest on the floor. The instrument can sometimes be taller than the musician. The larger the instrument, the lower the sound. So for the string section, the string section is usually located in the front. These instruments are quieter than other instruments. Placing them in the front allows them to be heard well by the audience. So there they are in the front, Charlie. Brass and percussion instruments are found in the back. Brass instruments are hollow inside. They make sounds when air is blown into a mouthpiece. Parts of these instruments are shaped like a cup or a funnel. The tuba, trumpet, trombone, and French horn are brass instruments. You can see those here. The percussion section makes sounds when they are struck with something. Drums, cymbals, bells, and chimes are some percussion instruments. And inside a piano, wires are hit by a small hammer each time a key is pressed. You can find the piano over here, along with the drums, the vibraphone, and that's where your other percussion instruments will go along with the cymbals. For the woodwind section, woodwind instruments are long and round. They are also hollow inside. The clarinet, flute, oboe, piccolo are woodwinds. And I know that says question. That's pretty silly, Charlie. What I meant to put there was bassoon instead of question. So the clarinet, flute, oboe, bassoon, and piccolo are woodwinds. This section is often found in the center of the orchestra. They are somewhat loud, so they don't need to have a whole lot of time and space to actually produce that sound. So they are surrounded by other instruments that are smaller so the audience can hear them first. All right, so the conductor, the most important part of a conductor, they stand in front of the orchestra. His or her hands and arm movements tell which musicians when and how to play. He or she will hold a stick called a baton that you can see here, and that will be held in one hand, and the other hand will be used to help direct the orchestra to tell them how loud to be or how quiet to be. So for example, a conductor also is reading a score that has a book that has all the notes played by every instrument. Each musician has his or her part in front of them, and it has the notes that each instrument will play. Many people enjoy going to an orchestra concert. When you hear music in a movie, more than likely an orchestra has played that music and is recorded either with not just instruments, but a machine that records it and can play it back, or the orchestra plays it live. So the cool part about an orchestra, it has a lot of different sections. And when we go to listen to these different sections, they are placed in particular spots because some are more important to hear than others. So this is the story of What's an Orchestra, Charlie. Let's go through the quiz questions that we are going to answer. All right, so the very first question that we are going to ask is, In which orchestra section would you find a flute? Now let's go back and review. Would we find it in the woodwind section or the percussion section? Percussion makes sounds when they are struck. Woodwinds are played when they are blown into, and a flute is something that you blow into, so you would find it in the woodwind section. And where are percussion instruments located? Are they in the front of the orchestra or are they in the back of the orchestra, Charlie? The next question asks, why are string instruments located in the front? Well, they have to be able to be heard by the audience because they are quieter instruments. Okay? And the last question I want to ask you is if you played a clarinet, where in the orchestra would you probably sit? Would you sit in the front, the back, or the center? All right, thanks for doing such a wonderful job today, Charlie. Bye-bye.